Welcome to Haunted Secrets. Tonight, we uncover alien voices in the dark, a transmission that should never have been heard. For the next 2 days, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. At first, he thought it was paranoia from lack of sleep, but every time he walked past a dark alley or looked through the rain-streaked windows of his car, he swore he saw movement, shadows flickering where no shadows should be. On the third night, he returned to the radio station. The storm had cleared, the skies unnervingly clear and starless. He locked himself inside, determined to prove he hadn't imagined it. At 3 a.m. sharp, he tuned into 106.7. The static hissed in his headphones, steady, normal. For 30 minutes, nothing happened. Then, the same metallic voice slithered back through the static. The harvest continues. Ethan's breath caught. He gripped the recorder tighter, hitting the red button. Suddenly, another sound joined the broadcast, like a pulse, a low-frequency thrum that rattled his teeth. His chest vibrated as if the sound was reaching inside him. Then came whispers, not one, but dozens. Voices repeating words he couldn't understand, some pleading, some screaming, all overlapping. But one voice broke through, clear, human, terrified. "Help me, please, it's taking us." Ethan ripped off the headphones. The voice had sounded real, as if the man were trapped inside the machine. The air in the station grew heavy, suffocating, and then it stopped. Dead silence. At first, he thought it was over, but when he looked at the clock, his blood froze. The transmission had ended at 3:33 a.m. exactly, the same time as before. The next morning, the news broke. A local farmer, Daniel Harris, had vanished. He had been last seen at exactly 3:33 a.m., walking home from his barn. His wife claimed she saw a bright flash of light outside, and when she opened the door, Daniel was gone. His boots were still smoking on the porch. Ethan's stomach dropped. The timing was no coincidence. The voice had said, "Harvest," and now it had begun. By the end of the week, 3 more people were missing, each disappearance happening between 3 o'clock and 3:33 a.m. A high school teacher, a gas station attendant, a boy only 12 years old. No signs of struggle, no footprints, just a faint smell of ozone. And in one case, burned grass in the shape of a perfect circle. The town buzzed with panic. Police searched endlessly, but there were no suspects, no leads. People began whispering about aliens. UFO sightings surged on social media. Strange lights in the sky over Ashford, captured on shaky cell phone footage. Ethan stayed silent. He knew more than anyone, but how could he explain it without sounding insane? Still, the weight of the recording pressed on him. He couldn't escape it. The voice wasn't just speaking. It was warning. It was choosing. Late one night, as he replayed the tape for the 100th time, he noticed something he hadn't before. A pattern hidden beneath the static. A rhythm. 3 pulses. Pause. 3 pulses. Pause. He scribbled it down, recognizing it instantly. Morse code. His hands trembled as he translated. "Next is you." Ethan dropped the pen, his blood running cold. The radio clicked on by itself, static flooding the room. His recorder's red light blinked, though he hadn't touched it, and through the noise came the voice again. Closer, clearer, as if it were whispering directly into his ear. "We begin tonight." The night After the last transmission, Ethan didn't dare sleep. His apartment felt unsafe. Every shadow too deep, every creak too loud. He taped black garbage bags over his windows, unplugged every electronic, and sat in the center of his living room with a baseball bat across his knees. But at exactly 3 o'clock in the morning, his old radio, one he hadn't touched in years, crackled to life on its own. Static filled the silence, crawling across the walls like invisible insects. Ethan's blood turned to ice as he realized he hadn't even plugged the thing in. It was dead, or should have been. The same mechanical voice bled through. Harvest. Phase 2. Witness. The air grew heavy, pressing against his lungs. His lights flickered, then dimmed until the room was washed in faint blue. That's when he saw it. A beam of light cutting through the plastic-covered window, bright and surgical, humming with energy. Ethan's instincts screamed at him to hide, but his body was frozen. The beam wasn't just light. It felt like it was scanning him, pulling at his bones, dragging at the edges of his mind. Through the glare, he caught a glimpse of something silhouetted against the light. Tall, thin, its limbs too long, its head bulbous, slightly tilted, watching him with eyes that shimmered like pools of liquid black. The air buzzed with static, but inside his head, inside his thoughts, came a voice, clear as if it was his own. You heard us. You belong to us. Ethan staggered backward, dropping the bat. His ears rang with pressure, and for a moment, he wasn't in his apartment anymore. He was somewhere else. A room. No, a chamber. Metallic walls pulsed like living skin. Dozens of people stood around him, their faces blank, eyes glazed white. They weren't moving. They weren't breathing. Yet somehow, they were alive, their chests rising and falling shallowly, like puppets waiting for strings. Ethan spun in terror, searching for an exit. That's when he saw the shadows. Dozens of those tall, thin beings standing just beyond the glow, their bodies twitching unnaturally, jerking as if out of sync with time. Above them, suspended in the chamber's ceiling, was a massive sphere, blacker than night. Its surface rippled like liquid obsidian. And then it opened. An eye the size of a house. Pupil endless, staring down at him. The voices roared all at once. Hundreds, thousands, inside his skull. The harvest. Your world is seed. You are fuel. Ethan screamed, and just like that, he was back in his apartment. He stumbled to the floor, drenched in sweat, his heart pounding out of his chest. The plastic on the window had burned away, edges curled and blackened. His radio lay shattered, smoke rising from its wires. And on his forearm, carved into his skin as if burned from the inside out, was a symbol. 3 concentric circles, connected by a single line. The mark of the harvest. His phone buzzed violently on the floor. He picked it up with trembling hands. One new voicemail. No caller ID. He pressed play. It was his own voice, breathless, panicked. whispering into the speaker. "They've already taken me." Ashford was no longer the same quiet town Ethan had grown up in. By the second week, the disappearances weren't whispered rumors anymore. They were breaking news. Whole families were gone overnight. Police reports described impossible crime scenes, locked houses with no signs of forced entry, beds still warm, food left uneaten on tables, no tracks, no struggle, just silence, and always the same time, 3:33 a.m. The sheriff held a press conference, his voice cracking. "Eyes hollow. Stay indoors. Don't look at the lights." But everyone knew it was useless, because the lights were everywhere now. Every night, brilliant beams cut through the skies above Ashford, descending on neighborhoods like surgical blades. Some claimed they saw shadows inside the beams, stretching, twitching, pulling people upward like fish on invisible hooks. Others swore they heard voices whispering in their heads before the light came. Ethan, meanwhile, was spiraling. The symbol burned into his arm had turned a sickly shade of black, veins spreading outward like roots beneath his skin. It pulsed at night, glowing faintly, in sync with that low thrum he'd first heard on the radio. He tried covering it with long sleeves, but the truth gnawed at him. He wasn't just a witness, he was marked. One night, desperate, he drove out of town, but 30 miles down the highway, his car radio turned on by itself, static flooding the speakers. The voice returned, clear and deliberate. "You cannot run. The seed belongs to the soil." His headlights flickered. For a split second, the road ahead wasn't empty. Figures stood there, dozens of tall, thin beings lined up across the asphalt, their heads cocked, eyes glinting like wet obsidian. Ethan swerved violently. When he looked back, they were gone. Shaking, he pulled over, gasping for air. He knew then he couldn't escape. They were everywhere, stitched into the fabric of the world. Back in Ashford, the town had begun to rot from within. At the diner, Ethan overheard whispers, neighbors accusing neighbors of being changed. Some people returned after disappearing, but they weren't right. Their eyes were too still. Their voices echoed, slightly distorted, as if two people spoke at once. They sat silently in public places, staring at nothing, until one by one they wandered off and vanished again. Ethan's nightmares worsened. He dreamed of fields of bodies, their mouths open in silent screams as machines hovered overhead, harvesting something unseen. And always, that massive black eye stared down at him. One night, he bolted awake at 3:10 a.m. His apartment was flooded with blue light. His clock blinked 3:11, 3:12, 3:13. By 3:20, the entire building shook. He stumbled to the window, just in time to see it. An enormous craft blotting out the stars. Not a flying saucer, but a vast, angular structure, its surface alive with writhing, organic patterns. Smaller ships swarmed out of it, darting like insects toward the town below. Screams filled the night as beams of light cut through streets, houses, schools. People were lifted into the sky like ragdolls, their cries vanishing as they dissolved into the glow. Ethan fell back, clutching his arm. The mark was burning white-hot now, veins glowing like molten fire beneath his skin. He doubled over in agony, hearing voices clawing into his skull. "Your harvest is soon. The cycle demands you." He staggered to his radio, smashing the tuner. Static poured out, but layered beneath it, were countless human voices, crying, begging for help. Their screams swelled into a deafening roar. Then, silence. One final voice remained. It was his own, whispering again, only this time, clear, resigned, hopeless. Ethan Cole died at 3:33 a.m. Ethan didn't leave his apartment the next day. He couldn't. Every bone in his body ached, as though something inside him was trying to claw its way out. The mark on his arm had spread across his chest, black veins fanning outward, pulsing in rhythm with something he could no longer deny. The town outside was silent now. Too silent. No cars, no chatter, no dogs barking in the distance. Only the faint hum of electricity, as if the whole world was caught in a single, frozen moment. At 3 a.m. sharp, the static returned. His shattered radio sparked to life, glowing with a sickly blue. The voice was waiting. Harvest complete. Final subject, accept. Ethan staggered to his feet, sweat pouring down his face. No, not me. You've taken enough. The air split open with a piercing tone, so high-pitched it felt like his skull was cracking. The walls of his apartment peeled away like paper, revealing an endless void. He stumbled backward and found himself standing in the chamber again. But this time, it wasn't a vision. Rows of people floated around him, suspended in beams of light. Their mouths hung open, but their eyes, those wide, lifeless eyes, followed him. His neighbors, his co-workers, the missing children. Their bodies glowed faintly, as if their very essence was being siphoned away. The great black sphere loomed above, its single massive eye opening wider than before, swallowing the chamber in shadow. The voice wasn't just in his head anymore. It was everywhere, in the walls, in the floor, in the air he breathed. Your species was never free. You were sown. Now we reap. Ethan dropped to his knees, clutching his ears, but the voice only grew louder. The beams of light around him intensified, and one locked onto his chest. His body lifted off the ground, every cell in him screaming, as if it were being unraveled. Through the agony, visions poured into his mind, flashes of countless worlds, countless civilizations, planets stripped bare, oceans drained, stars flickering out as ships consumed their light. This was no invasion. This was routine. Humanity was nothing more than a crop. And then, amidst the screaming chaos, came a final truth. He saw Earth, its people, its history, every war, every struggle, all of it had been engineered, cultivated like a field waiting for harvest. Humanity had never been alone. They had always been watched. The black eye dilated, focusing on him. Seed fulfilled. Cycle ends. Ethan's scream echoed into the void as his body dissolved into the beam. His thoughts splintered, stretched into infinity, until there was nothing left but static. Back in the empty apartment, the radio played one last message, flat, emotionless, final. The harvest is complete. And then silence. When the sun rose over Ashford, the town was empty. Cars sat abandoned. Houses stood hollow. Meals rotting on tables. The streets were still. Not a single living soul remained. At exactly 3:33 a.m. the following night, radios across the world flickered on, broadcasting the same chilling signal. A voice, distorted, mechanical, yet eerily familiar. It was Ethan's. The harvest begins.